Hey y'all, welcome back to Mirror Expressions, where I take the time and share a little bit of myself with you all, and I invite y'all to come on in and do the same with me. First thing I ask, just go ahead and hit that like button for me, and then move on over to the subscribe button if you have not already. And as always, just tell me how you doing. Be like, what's up, Kay? I'm good. Leave me a mirror emoji. That again lets me know that, hey, you're doing awesome. And if you looked in the mirror today and you don't feel great with what you see looking back at you, as always, I encourage you to do what you must to get back to a healthier you. Right? All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. So today we're gonna be talking about a friend of the family on Peacock. Have y'all seen it? Are y'all watching it? It's basically, have y'all seen that story or that limited series, Abducted in Plain Sight? No, I think it's actually still running on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like a documentary kind of type thing that follows this family where their daughter was abducted twice by their family friend, and then the guy ended up getting with the mom and the dad. It was just a wild story. Wild, right? So this is that story. It's a limited series, and it is being done by, or it's I don't know if the Jan, that's the main girl in the show that was abducted, and I don't know if she's the one actually putting it on, or if she just gave her approval for this, like she's involved with it. I will say, at least on that level, she's definitely involved, because before the series starts, you see her just kind of talking to the audience, or those out in TV world, just kind of letting us know that, hey, I know y'all think this is a wild story and that it's unbelievable and it couldn't happen to you, but it did. And you just got to remember that it was different times back then. And so that's how it kind of was able to happen. Still wild and unimaginable to me, but hey. So this is how she kind of just prefaces the show before it gets started. So it's broken down into different episodes. So today we're just gonna be talking about episode 1, and it's called what is it called? Shoot, y'all, don't let me lie. I'm gonna put it in the title, but we're just gonna be talking about episode 1, right? So it opens up, it's 1975, and we see Jan in her room, and somebody's coming outside of her window. That's all we kind of see. We don't know who it is or anything, but Jan is frightened, and we see the shadow of a person outside of her window. And then we get this flashback to 1973, where the Brombergs are, let me get these names right, because y'all know I will mix up a name in a minute. So the Brobergs are meeting the new kids on the block, which will be the Burstows. So Jan is a Broberg. That's her family. So it's her 2 sisters, her mom and her dad, which are Bob and Mary Ann. Is it Mary Ann? Yes, Mary Ann. Right? And so Mary Ann has met the new kids on the block, the Birchtoes, at the church. So they've invited the Brobergs over just to kind of get to know them. So the Birchtoe, that's Gail, and the dad's name is Bob as well in that family. And they have 3 boys and a baby girl, right? So the Brobergs, they all walk over there and they go see the Birchtoes. Like, these names are so confusing because we got 2 Bobs, and then both of their last names are these weird B names, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so they go over there, and you know, everything kind of just seems normal. Like, they're very friendly towards the Brobergs, and their children seem to get along, and the adults in the situation, they seem to get along. And so they kind of all forged like this friendship because all the children are the same age. Their boys are the same age as the girls, except for they got a baby girl, right? So anyway, we kind of see time go by, and we're about a year and a half in, and so we're seeing how that bond has grown. And Bob Birchall, which was the newbie, he's kind of really taking a liking to Jan from the other family, the oldest daughter. And like he's taking her, like we see glimpses of him just taking her on outings where it's just him and her, and it's just like, why is this happening? Like, there are other kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're taking one child out, why aren't you taking all the children? So I get that Jan said this was a different time back then, and but even some things I would have thought weird and strange. Like, that to me is one of the things. But anyways, it happened. We see it happening. So the families, they're all very comfortable with one another, right? Anyways, so we kind of learned a couple of things along the way. So we learned that Bob Birchtold, he has been battling depression. His wife, Gail, says that, he kind of goes up and down. So it kind of really sounds like he's probably bipolar, which they're not calling it that. He's just saying that, she's just saying that, he has these bouts of depression, right? And then the Birchtolds, they're also into like aliens and all of that, right? And so they're kind of introducing this aspect of things to the other family. And while the parents aren't really gravitating towards it, Jan is just kind of soaking all of this up. Like, she's beginning to think that aliens are real and blah, blah, blah. So, one day we kind of see Bob Birchtold. Now, I'm going to start calling him B, because that's what they call him in the show. They call him B. So, just so we don't get the Bobs mixed up, right? So, we see B, he ends up selling his store, right? He gets all this money. He sells his store. And I'm assuming that he spent all this money on this camper, because his wife says he had started coming home late, and she ended up following him one day to their storage unit, and she realized he'd bought a camper, and she knew nothing about this camper, but he had bought it and he was out there fixing it up, right? So one day B calls Bob at his store. Now, the other Bob, he's a florist. So he's at work, and he asks Bob, can he take Jan to go for some ice cream? And, well, no. Can he go take Jan to go horseback riding? That's what it was. And so Bob is just like, no, because now Bob is kind of starting to pick up on things. Like, he's starting to feel like it's unusual. He's kind of just being a little suspicious of B, or really not just liking how he's kind of seems to be taking over that fatherly role in Jan's life, right? So Bob is just like, no. So then B ends up calling Mary Ann, which is Bob's wife. And she's at home. And so he asks her, well, can I take Jan horseback riding? And apparently Jan also had a piano lesson that day. And he was like, I can take her to piano lesson, and then we can go, and I'll have her at home to dinner by such time. And so Mary Ann was just like, it shouldn't be a problem, but let me talk to Bob first, right? So she ends up calling her husband, and she lets him know that, hey, B wants to take Jan horseback riding. And Bob is just like, no, I already talked to him. I already told him no. There's no reason why he should have even called you on it. So Mary Ann ends up calling B back and was just like, no, we don't think it's a good idea. She has piano lessons, and then Bob already made plans with them to do puzzles after dinner, right? And so B is just like, oh, he's trying to guilt trip Mary Ann. Well, how Jan gets when she gets upset, and I really hate disappointing her, and blah, blah, blah. And so Mary Ann is still just like, I know, I understand, but she's just going to have to get over it this time and all that. Y'all, while later on that same evening, B just shows up to the Broberg's house. Like, he just literally walks in like that's his home. And of course, nobody is there but Mary Ann and the children. Like, Bob isn't there. Bob is still at work. And so he comes in, and so Jan sees him. So, of course, she gets excited, like, yes, I'm going horseback riding. And so Mary Ann was just like, no, your dad said no, you're not. So Jan gets upset and she runs away to her room. And so B is just like, I can take her to piano practice, and then I can take her. And Mary Ann's like, for what? That doesn't make sense. I have to drop one of the other little girls off at choir practice. I can take her. And then, so then B was like, well, then I could just pick her up and then we could go horseback riding. And so Mary Ann is still just like, no, she kind of trying to respect her husband's wishes, right? And so then B gets all up on Mary Ann's back, and he whispers in her ear, like they are literally, you would have thought they was cold. Like he was all up on there. He was on that back, baby. And so he whispers in her ear, like, don't forget what I told you. And then, we don't hear what it is that he says. We find out later on that he basically told her that she should have been the one that he had married or he had gotten with. You know what I'm saying? He should have gotten with her or her sooner or whatever. So that kind of rattles her when he's whispering in her ear, right? So then Jane ends up coming back down, so they kind of separate real quick. And then Bob, without anything else, just tells Jan, we're going horseback riding, I'm gonna pick you up. And then he leaves. Like, who is this dude? Like, how you just gonna tell them folks what you gonna do with their kids? Could be me. So anyways, Jan ends up telling Bob, and of course he's just pissed. He is livid, right? And well, he finds out when he's home because he realizes Jan isn't there, and then he tells her. So anyway, so over with B, like we see him. He's opening a capsule, a pill, right? But it's a capsule, so he's opening it up and he's dumping out the contents of the capsule. And then we don't see anything else until after he actually picks Jan up from piano. So Jan at piano, she on pins and needles. She's just anxious to go be with Bob, to be with B, So she's not even focusing and concentrating on her piano lesson. And as soon as B pull up, she just hops up and runs out and gets in the car, right? So they're driving. And so then B says, oh, you gotta go ahead and take your allergy pill. Y'all, B brings out this whole pack of pills, right? It looked like birth control pills, like one of them packets like that. Or one of them steroid packs. This is what it looked like. It was just like a pack, and it literally had just pills all in a row. And I'm thinking, like, why you got that for that child? You know what I'm saying? Like, even if my child went with a trusted adult or family member and they had to take a medication, I would not send the whole pack. I would send enough for what they were supposed to take during this time. It's just all weird, just stuff I wouldn't do. But again, Jan did preface this like, you got to think this is a different age, a different time, and people move differently. So I can't imagine it, but hey, it happens. So he had these pills and he took out that particular one, and all we can do is assume it's the same one that he had dumped the contents out of, and apparently he had filled it with something else. So Jane takes it, chucks it down, and so they're just driving. They're having small talk. He's telling her how he's so glad they're friends and blah, blah, blah. And so all you can see is Jane just getting sleepy and sleeping. Her little eyes getting heavy. She can barely hold them open, right? And so that's all we see for a while. So back at the Bromberg's house, they're starting to get worried, right? Because it's now after dinner, and B was supposed to have had Jane back before Jan. Sorry. He was supposed to have had Jan back before dinner, right? And so they're getting worried. And so of course this is before cell phone. So ain't nothing, no way to just kind of contact him before pages too. So they end up calling like the wife. And so Gail was just like, you could tell she was just nervous, and I think Gail knew more than she was letting on, and knew like the fact that I don't think she knew what was actually going on, but I think she knew that her husband wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? And so when they called Gail trying to ask her what was what, like to figure out where they went horseback riding, first of all, that's what they did. And so Gail said they had went up to one of Marianne's family members. So Marianne was like, no, I thought he said that he was taking her to this other place that one of his co-workers knew of, right? And so Gail's just like, you know what? It'll be better if I come over there and talk to you about it. So she leaves her little boys in the house, and she goes over to the Brobergs, right? And so they're talking, they're trying to brainstorm like what could have happened, where could they be? And Gail keeps saying that maybe he had a flat tire or something. And I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? And then she brings up his depression. You know, I feel like she was just trying to garner sympathy, because then she ends up telling this story about how she and B were trying to adopt this little Hispanic girl, and they had the adoption papers all done, and they flew down to get her, and then the mom changed her mind. And so I think she did that just to gain sympathy, because she was just like basically saying how B really wanted a little girl, and they didn't have one except for their little baby girl. And so he's kind of missing out. And that's probably why he's just really taking a liking to Jan. I was just like, oh, this is such bull crap. Such bull crap. I know they are not falling for this. And so I was surprised at how silent Bob was. Like, for him to have been as pissed and livid as he was kind of silent doing all of this. It was just basically the two wives talking, right? And so Marianne is just like, well, do you have, I think they end up calling Bob's job and asking the co-worker, did he possibly know this one of the customers who came in and suggested this ranch where they could go horseback riding, and where it was. And of course the co-worker knew nothing about it, right? So then Gail ends up telling Mary and Bob about how B had been acting strange, and she found out about the mobile home at their storage unit or whatever. So the ladies decide to go out to the storage unit while Bob stays home, just in case B decides to call, right? So they go out to the storage unit. They can't get in the storage, and so it's just all weird. So then Gail called herself looking on the, I don't know if she saw the camper there or not. I believe she saw that it was gone, but we don't really know that for sure yet. And so They end up coming on back to the house, right? And so at this point, Marianne's just like, well, we gotta call the police. You know what I'm saying? So she pick up the phone and Gil starts begging her not to call the police. Like nothing's gonna be done this soon anyway. They're probably just had a flat tire. And so she's just doing all this stuff to talk her out of it. And for a minute, it seemed like Mary Ann was not gonna do it. So she took her hand from the phone, and it was like a big long pause. And then she ends up picking up the phone and calling police anyway. So at this point, I'm just like, yes, y'all. Why would she call the police? She did not report her child missing. Oh, this is something else Gail had told Marianne before she made that call. She was like, please don't do it because B would never forgive you. And that's when she took her hand off, and yes, it was like this long pause. And so the whole time you thinking this wench really is not gonna call the police, right? And then she ended up putting her hand back on the phone. She picked it up and she started calling the police. And like I said, I was just like, yes, you better do that. Forget those folks. You better stand up for your baby girl. But y'all, I tell you, when she called the police, she didn't mention her child not once. She called trying to see if the type of car that B was driving had been found anywhere. If there was like a reported flat tire accident, or if anybody had been taken to the hospital by ambulance. I was just like, I was so upset, y'all. I was so upset. So then, Gail ends up leaving, going back home. And so the Brobergs, they settled in for the night. And Mary Ann gonna ask Bob, like, when they come home, if he's gonna let B have it. Why he gotta let B have it? You the one let B go off, or let B go off with your baby girl. You the one then stop that whole situation from going down. Bob had already said no, and he meant it. Oh, yeah. And so, of course, they were tossing and turning, well, especially Mary Ann, and she started having these dreams. And that's where we see B whispering in her ear, because she's kind of dreaming about that whole situation. They were somewhere at some kind of dance, and he whispered in her ear that she should have been the one. He should have met her sooner, and blah, blah, blah. So that's what she was thinking about, or that's what he was referring to earlier when they were standing in the kitchen. He was all up on her back. Right. So then we cut back over to B and Jan. Well, all we see is really Jan, and she's kind of waking up, because she had been put out with that, I'm just going to assume it was a sleeping pill, whatever it was, it made her go to sleep. So she's kind of just now waking up. And as she's coming to, she realizes she's tied up at her hands and her feet, right? So y'all remember that I said that B and his wife were kind of like into all these aliens or whatever. So y'all, why B had like this intercom come on overhead and start talking to Jan like as if it was an alien talking to her. I said, oh my goodness. And that she ain't nothing but a child. If her head had not really been filled with all these things about aliens and they really do exist, and now she thought she was with somebody she trusted, going out to like a happy place, and now she's waking up chained, and she hears like this alien voice. She thinking that the aliens are coming from her. I said, oh, that poor child. Oh my goodness, she's finna be really traumatized. But anyway, y'all, that was how episode 1 ended. I'll be continuing. I'm gonna get to episode 2 next. Anyway, let me know what y'all think so far. Are y'all watching along? Please watch along with me. If not, tell me from this review, just like, what are you getting? What do you think? Because, baby, this story is already wild. Like, it's already so many things. I would have been like, hell to the no. It ain't happening. It is not happening. But anyway, y'all, That's all I got for you. Until next time, I'm going to continue to pray for y'all. Y'all, please pray for me. And what? We will watch God change things. Peace out. Bye.